Okay, as you know, on November the 23rd, 2014, we had our first individual killed at the intersection of Cortland and Ralph McGill. It was a homeless gentleman by the name of Dorian Jenkins. He was found there wrapped in his bedding that he would sleep nightly in that open space, which is some kind of art sculpture at the intersection of Ralph McGill and Cortland, very conspicuous, not hiding from anyone. And he was shot a total of 5 times with a weapon we now know is an actual revolver. It's either a Smith & Wesson Governor or it's a Taurus 45. Both weapons are 45s, and they carry .410 ammunition, which is a shotgun load. We know that on the 26th of November, 2014, at the intersection of Whitehall and Northside Drive, Tommy Mims was also killed in the very same way, wrapped in his bedding, conspicuous on the sidewalk under the railroad bridge at the location of Whitehall and Northside. He was also shot multiple times, 7 times. So with this gun, either this Taurus or this Governor, these guns have a capacity of 5 or 6 rounds. So in Tommy Mims' case, our second victim, someone had to reload the weapon in order to get 7 rounds in him. So they had to unload it with the shell casings that were spent, add 2 more bullets at least, and fire the last 2 rounds into Mr. Mims. And we found out after the GBI coordinated with APD Homicide that it was the very same gun that killed both Mr. Jenkins and Mr. Mims. We also know that it's a particular ammo, the Blazer 45 Colt 200 grain bullet is the only bullet you can put in these 2 guns, the Governor and the Judge, which are 45 revolvers. It's the same, it's one of these 2 guns. And we just want to make the public aware. We want the homeless brothers and sisters to actually be vigilant with each other. We also want the general public, if you see people at intersections asleep alone, encourage them to bed down or to bunk or camp out with other people until we get a handle on what we have here. We have a particularly evil individual that has shot 2 of our homeless community in Atlanta in less than 3 miles away from each other in both locations. One northeast, the initial, and the other in southwest Atlanta.
Have you been able to find a connection between these 2 men other than the fact that they were homeless?
The connection is both of these gentlemen were homeless people that would probably frequent that corridor between northeast Atlanta, where our local missions are and our outreach centers, into the West End, where you have a lot of your recycling areas, where metal can be converted into cash. That 3-mile corridor is the only connection. There's no direct anything. We couldn't find a police report. We couldn't find any kind of accident report, anything related to both of these individuals that put them together. We don't even know if they knew each other, but they may have known each other in passing. Mr. Mims collected cans for a living, and he would camp out underneath that bridge right there at Whitehall and Northside, but we have no connection between him and our initial victim. The connection is they're both killed with the same firearm. And it's a revolver, and it shoots, as I indicated, that Blazer ammunition, which was last manufactured, that particular 45 Colt ammunition with a 200 grain listed on the box in the year 2010. And it's in an aluminum casing, which means some people who are avid target shooters or gun enthusiasts, they may stockpile this particular ammunition, but we want to hear anything about this ammunition from the public. If there's someone that you're suspicious of that you see either with this kind of weapon and this type of ammunition, they may have shown off the gun. These 2 guns, the Governor and the Judge, have an elongated cylinder. The cylinder on the gun is longer than if you would see a .38 revolver. The actual cylinder that turns, it's to the naked, I mean, when you look at it, the optics on it are that it's longer than your average revolver, that particular barrel that holds the bullets. So we want to hear from anyone that may have, you got a suspicious person that's been showing off this gun. As I said, target shooters and home defenders like this gun. We don't see this gun on our crime scenes on a normal basis. We usually see the automatic weapons that eject the shell casings once the bullet is spent. This gun, and like I said, on our second victim, someone had to manually extract 5 to 6 shells out of a gun, either hold them or place them in some area, then reload that gun and shoot our victim, who's already dead, 2 more times.
Detective, you used the word evil. Do you feel like this is somebody, based on your experience and what you've learned about this particular crime, who has an out for homeless people because that's the easiest target and could escalate, or is really going to continue to target homeless men and women?
I'm saying evil because it just seems, it's sinister. It's evil in that there was nothing to gain from it monetarily. A lot of our shootings involve robbery. A lot of our shootings involve, someone making good on an old debt or some kind of revenge factor. This factor are sleeping people wrapped in their bedding for the evening. And we believe the shooter couldn't even see his target because when we get there, these guys are wrapped up so well, you couldn't even tell they were victims of a shooting until we actually got them to a place where we could examine them and conduct the investigation further during autopsy.
How'd you get to the point where, who called them in as dead homeless people as opposed to just sleeping homeless people?
What happened initially, the people we've interviewed, the initial victim, Mr. Dorian Jenkins, when he was found at the intersection of Cortland and Ralph McGill, outreach teenagers that come to the area to actually feed, counsel, and give advice and comfort to the homeless, found Mr. Jenkins and alerted Atlanta police and the Fulton County Medical Examiner. Mr. Tommy Mims, who was found just 72 hours later, less than 3 miles away, his normal trek was to go to the local recycling place in the morning, at least make 2 trips before maybe noon of cans so he could, have money for his daily activities. And people actually just thought he was sleeping. One guy even spoke to him not knowing he was deceased. It wasn't until he didn't come to the recycling bin that someone actually jumped up and said, hey, we need to go check on him because he was out in the open. And we discovered he was.
Is there a protocol in place to monitor the homeless just in certain areas? Are you just targeting this one particular area?
Well, I'm talking 2 areas. I'm talking the northeast location, which that's the initial location that was on the 23rd of November. And then we're talking about less than 3 miles away in southwest Atlanta. We had boots hit the ground first and foremost, even before we could understand what we were dealing with, letting the homeless and anyone that comes in contact with the homeless, concerned citizens, get the word out to use the buddy system, to incorporate the buddy system to continue their daily activities in the way they sleep at night. And some sleep during the day. So we had the cops unit hit the shelters, boots on the ground, Atlanta police going out with flyers, using investigative transparency to let all the homeless people and concerned citizens know exactly what's going on with our investigation. We've exposed everything because we don't want to hide anything. We want to tell you what's going on. Hopefully, the saturation of these 2 targets, the areas where our homeless brothers and sisters commune and do their daily activities, it will cause this individual or individuals to, discontinue this evil crime.
And are there any
So this has
surveillance
happened
cameras in the
twice
area?
now. Is there, when you've got 2 crimes, you've connected them now to the same gun or to the same person, do you have any belief that this person is going to stop, or do you think that they're likely to do this again?
Can't say, but I can just say this, that these homicides were Thanksgiving week. We have the Christmas holidays coming up. And we're asking the public, again, if you see homeless people alone, encourage them, get out your cars, encourage them to, find someone else to actually commune with at night and to bed down with, someone that can actually watch their back. We're asking for anyone's help.
And were there surveillance cameras in the area?
There were surveillance cameras in the area, and we've, gone through those surveillance cameras. It's information that's nothing we could link to the scenes. In these situations in the city, you may have tons of cameras, but none that shoot or point towards our target or crime scene locations that we're interested in this case.
I'm sorry, were you able to determine, since it was a while on both of them, if these 2 men were killed during the same time of day, like overnight hours?
I would say, based off what we have so far, they were definitely killed in the early morning hours, probably before rush hour started, before people started milling around in vehicles, things of that nature. But we have no cameras that give us any kind of account of what happened.
What about anybody fleeing from the scene around the time that?
We're investigating at least 1 individual dressed in all black and a hooded sweatshirt and dark clothing. But from the vantage point of the persons that are actually seeing this, and it's 2 people, 1 homeless person, 1 citizen that owns property in the area, they cannot make an identification. They can only give us the descriptions, but their descriptions marry each other. So we're going through the information. These people have asked to remain anonymous at this time, and we're working to pull them from the shadows.
Do you have any evidence that there may have been similar crimes anywhere else in Metro Atlanta, around the state, or even regionally?
Well, what we did, the first thing we did on Thanksgiving Day, we were all working here trying to find out what was going on with our homeless in this particular situation. We sent a teletype throughout the southeastern United States for all local law enforcement to give us feedback. We have nothing that mimics this. The fact that we have one gun involved in this kind of a crime with two victims in a 72-hour period, we wanted to alert and let these agencies know exactly what was going on.
It just seems strange. You have 2 murders in 3 days, and then nothing for the last 2 weeks. I mean, do we think this guy may have just stopped? It seems odd that he would have done this twice in 72 hours and nothing in the last 14 days.
That's a tough call and a good question. I don't know. I can't give you an answer for that. I don't know why someone would shoot 2 defenseless men that don't even know they're being shot. The fact that based off the way they're clad in their blankets and bedding, that they never came out of the sleep they were already in. They stayed in slumber receiving these gunshot wounds. They weren't fleeing, running, flailing. There was no evidence. They were asleep when they took these rounds.
Last questions?
So you're saying that the way that these guns work, they don't eject the shells. So the way that you're able to link them is because someone reloaded the gun and manually ejected the shell?
We're linking them. It's very simple. Mr. Dorian Jenkins was shot 5 times. We retrieved all 5 bullets from his body at autopsy, all 5. Mr. Tommy, our second victim, Mr. Tommy Mims, was shot 7 times. We recovered all 7 of those particular projectiles. You got shell casings, you got the bullets that come out of the shell. We recovered all 12. All 12 came from the same firearm. 1 shooter or 1 gun and at least 1 shooter.
And Crime Stoppers, that if anybody wants to call or remain
Well,
anonymous.
and here's the thing. We understand people wanting to remain anonymous. We encourage you to call our Crime Stoppers hotline. It's 404-577-TIPS. We will keep you away from the spotlight. We just want to get the information. Any little hook, any piece of information that will be useful. You just don't understand the smallest little bit of information. I have a homeless person and a tax-paying homeowner that saw the same shadowy figure. Now, they can't make an identification, but that puts us where we need to be. It also gives us a timeline for at least one of the murders, and we're working on it.
Do you have any family members come forward for either of these 2? Have there been any contact with?
I made death notifications on both families. Mr. Jenkins' family hails from the Bronx, New York. Mr. Tommy Mims' family is local in the south side of Atlanta past the airport. I made personal. I had to make death notifications on Thanksgiving Eve. Mr. Mims, his family never sees him until Thanksgiving Day, so I had to go there Thanksgiving Eve, and actually make that notification. They were waiting on him to show up.